Hi, friends. Welcome back. So, today we are going to move on in Unit 7. Again, this is a short unit, so we can go pretty quick. So, today we are going to cover Unit 7, Lesson 2, and we're going to simplify radicals. I hope y'all enjoyed that Among Us activity. I think it was going to be pretty fun. Okay, so we're simplifying radicals. So, here we are on this page right here. So first, do we remember what a radical is? So a radical, most of what you guys should be familiar with is the square root. So it looks like this square root. Okay, so when we're taking square roots of things, um, this symbol is called the radical symbol. So we are going to start dealing with square roots. You're going to see these in your answers, and we need to know how to simplify them. We need to know what they mean. So, first, I want to review our perfect squares. So, I have this table here, this wheel, and I want you guys to fill it in. So, you should be able to type on your screen. So, when I have something squared, that means that I'm multiplying it by itself. So, I have 1 times 1. 1 squared is 1 times 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. So perfect squares are when I take a number and I square it, I multiply it by itself, the value I get. This is a perfect square. So 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. If you were in class, I'd probably let you fill this in by yourself the rest of the way, but I want to make sure you guys have it right. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. And 12 times 12 is 144. So these are perfect squares. If I were you, I would memorize these 1 through 12. We can memorize all these. Get them all. Stick them in your brain, store them. They're going to be helpful this year. They're going to be helpful in Algebra 2. They're going to be helpful in geometry next year, okay? So, having these memorized is beneficial for you long term, not just right now, okay? All right, so when we are taking square roots of things, what we're doing is we're undoing the squaring of it. So when we do 2 times 2 and get 4, to undo that, to go backwards, we're going to take the square root of it. So the square root of 4 is 2. We're undoing that square. We're going backwards. Okay, so we can look at our table and we can say, well, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 25 is 5. So what is the thing that I'm multiplying by itself to give me this number? The square root of 121 is 11, okay? But sometimes when we're taking square roots, we don't have perfect squares like this. So, for example, over here on number 1, we have the square root of 20. Well, 20 is not on this wheel. It would be in between here and here, right? So it's some number bigger than 4 but smaller than 5. So it's some decimal in there. So we don't have an exact value that we can take out of the square root of 20, but we can simplify it. So when we're simplifying, we want to break down 20 into two factors, so two things that multiply to give me 20, one of which I want to be one of these numbers on my perfect square. Okay, so I want to be one of the numbers on the outside of my circle. So we can think about this first by writing our factors of 20. We've been doing this. We've been doing our factor trees, right? So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't go into 20, 4 and 5, and that's it. These are all our factors. So when I write down my factors, I want to find the factors that have a perfect square. So here's my perfect square, 4. I'm going to rewrite the square root of 20 as 4 times 5. Okay, so I'm going to say the square root of 20 equals the square root of 4 times 5, because 4 times 5 is 20, right? So I'm just writing it as its two factors. Then I have these rules in square roots that tell me if I'm multiplying two things underneath a square root, then I can say this is the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. So the square root of 20 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times 5, which is the same thing as the square root of 4. times the square root of 5. Now, the square root of 4 is 2, right? If I look right here, 4, the square root of 4, if I go backwards, is 2. So that means this first piece becomes 2. And the second piece, the square root of 5, 5 is not on the outside of my wheel, and it's a prime number, so I can't simplify it any further. It's just going to stay the square root of 5. Okay, so the square root of 20 is the same thing as 2 times the square root of 5. Okay? So I'm going to do example 2 here with you. Let me grab my calculator really quick. Here we go. All right, so the first thing we want to do is come up with the factors of 320. That's what we're trying to simplify. So on your calculator, remember I showed you if you need help, go back to the video. Actually, you know what? Let me just pull up my calculator. I'll show you again. I'm going to show you again right now. It'll open. So we can come up with our factor list by using our calculators. You guys all have one of these calculators on your phone, on your computers. There are free apps on your phone that you can download, but not all of them do all of the things that we need. So using the one on your computer is better. So I'm going to go ahead and clear out my calculator. And then we're going to go to y equals. So if you click on y equals, it's going to bring you to, let me click it again. Here we go. It's going to bring you to this screen. And on this screen, you can type in the number you're trying to find the factor of. So 320 divided by, and then you want to do alpha stop. So alpha in this button, and that's going to give you this x. So whenever you're doing this, you're typing in the number you're trying to find the factors of divided by x. Then you're going to go second graph, and it's going to give you a table. So now these are all the values that multiply to give you 320. So I'm going to kind of move this to this side. There's my table. This is the problem I'm trying to work. So what I'm doing is I'm looking through this list, and I'm trying to find the biggest perfect square. So these are the perfect squares that I know right now. So I'm looking through this list to try to find one. A hint for you, if you use the calculator, if you start on y1 and go down this direction, so from the top down, the first perfect square you see is going to be the biggest one because these numbers are getting smaller, right? So if you're going down this side, the first one that is a perfect square that you see is going to be the biggest one you can get. So this is going to be 64 and 5. So this is the one I want to choose. I want to rewrite the square root. Did my pencil just disconnect? Let's see. Here we go. It might be dying, I guess. The square root of 320, I'm going to rewrite it as 64 times 5. So this is the same thing as the square root of 64 times 5. Then I can rewrite this as the square root of 64 times the square root of 5. Well, the square root of 64, if we look at our wheel up here, if I find 64 and go backwards, the square root of 64 is 8. So that means this is 8 times the square root of 5. And that's my answer. Okay? So you now have, that's simplifying radicals. There's a maze. So go ahead and open that maze. Oh, I didn't attach it. I saved it. I didn't attach it. Okay, let me open it here really quick. The maze. All right, so you do need to upload a picture of your work. Show me how you work these problems. Remember, you don't get full credit if you don't show me work. So make sure you take pictures, upload your work. But this is the maze. So the square root of 320 I just did with you, so that's 8 square root of 5. So you can drag your first circle and put it here. And then you're going to work this one. So figure out which way you're going there and do the next problem. I would start on all of these by just putting them in the calculator first. So your calculator does do, let me come home. does do square roots. If you do the blue button, the second, and then the x squared, it'll put a square root in there, so you can put in, like, the square root of 81 is 9. It will tell you the square roots, okay? So if you put it in there first, the square root, I'm gonna do 320. You put in the square root of 320, it's going to give you some decimal. If you get a decimal, that means you need to simplify your square root, okay? You need to simplify it just the way I just showed you, all right? If you have any questions, reach out to me, let me know. We're moving on tomorrow to quadratic formula. See you later.